Which engine's gonna blow up first? I mean, which truck is best? The Tundra or the Silverado? I'll include a link to the Toyota and Murray and the Chevy and Murray's websites in the description down below. They're providing us with both of these trucks. Let's get right into the comparison. Today's giveaway highlight is a Corvette Z06 paired with a classic Corvette Stingray. Use code BHC or click the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. Any donation $25 or more gives you 4x bonus entries into this giveaway. Powering the Silverado is a 6.2 liter V8 that goes through a 10-speed. Fuel economy is 15 around town, 20 on the highway, with power outputs being 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. The Tundra is powered by a twin-turbo 3.4 liter V6 paired to a hybrid and a 10-speed. Fuel economy is 19 around town, 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 437 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque. If you don't want your car's engine to blow up, make sure you subscribe. Do it right now. When it comes to front-end equipment with the Silverado, well, lots of chrome trim. You can see we've got some recovery points down below, fog lights. We also have parking sensors. And the Tundra's got most of these same equipment, however, no recovery points. I don't know if they'll ever add it for this generation. 275 by 60 by 20 for the tire wheel setup with the Silverado. Actually, has all-terrain tires. 265 by 60 by 20 for the tire wheel setup with the Tundra, and yeah, just street tires on this one. Man, the side profile of that Silverado looks super sharp, especially on the back of a tow truck after you have your lifters fail. Anyways, we've got the power side steps. That's another nice feature about this loaded up one. And this truck is more traditional. It's leaf sprung. You think that tradition would mean reliability. The Tundra's got a lot of body lines, so kind of a little bit more of a complicated design. And don't worry, the Tundra also looks great on the back of a tow truck after the bearings get sent all the way to the moon. And this is non-traditional. It's coil sprung in the rear, so kind of a new full-size pickup truck thing. Now the Chevy's got this fancy pants tailgate setup where this can pop down, turn into a step system, or you can have it out like this for wood, for example. Man, that is like awkwardly heavy. It seems like the system needs to be lubed up or something. You always have protection on the tailgate even if you don't have bed liner like this particular truck. We do have LED bed lights and an outlet as well. And then lifting this up, not heavy. Popping over to Team Tundra. Yep, it's full power. Fancy pants. You notice that we've got some bed liner on this. That's going to help out with grip. But yeah, you've got a decent amount of bed space. No real features in the bed though. Kind of lackluster. This should be power up. Look at that. Future. Both of these trucks have pretty boxy back ends. The Silverado has a little bit more equipment, having those step bumper things where the Tundra doesn't really have it. You can get a kick step, but it's not as cool looking. Man, the cab in the back of this Silverado is so spacious, so like you could sleep back here when your lifters fail. It's great. Got little storage pockets, cup holders, heated seats, some USB ports, and then I like how the seats are perforated. You also have this little storage system where there's storage behind there. Got nice trim on the door panel, power sliding rear glass, plenty of headroom. So unfortunately, when your bearing decides to pull an Apollo mission to the moon, you don't have as much space back here as a Silverado. But it's still pretty spacious. Got a little storage pocket, some cup holders, got some USB ports and vents. And I like these new leather seats in the limited package of the Tundra. Very fancy looking and feeling. The entire window goes down rather than just a little pocket like what you have with the Silverado. And then you do have good headroom. Blind spot monitoring with the Silverado. We've got some soft touch trim up top. You can see the stitching down below. Memory seats with this. The mirror is also power fold in. 1533 pounds for the payload. That's good. Front seats perforated down the center, power adjustments and everything on the side. Tons of controls here on the side, so like heads-up display controls. That's for your drive line. It has a part-time four-wheel drive system with auto, high, and low. Got your tow mode, drive modes, light controls, steering wheel's power adjustable. And let's fire it up. Those lifters are doing just fine for now. Full digital gauge cluster, I mean, pretty techy. And I like how it shows what drive mode you're in the drive line too. And the steering wheel, I like the simplistic design. And also the functionality, like the heated steering wheel button on the steering wheel. They don't overcomplicate things whatsoever. Paddle shifters on the back, radio controls on the back as well. 360 camera system with tons of different angles there. And then as for the rest of the infotainment system, wait a second. There you go. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it's a little bit laggy, and initial startup, but after you've had it on for a while, it actually is pretty quick to respond. Tons of physical controls for different items. Hill descent, that's kind of a nice little feature. Auto stop start, yeah, it's got that. We've got heated ventilated seats, dual zone climate, so all the little physical buttons for that. Trailer brake controls integrated. Got a shifter so you feel like you're doing something substantial. Fun charging pad inside with some USB ports and an outlet. I do like the trim here on the top, that's also fancy. 2 glove boxes. More nice trim on the dash, camera rear view mirror, and then this one just has a traditional sunroof. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. You got soft touch trim down below. And I will say the Toyota definitely is a bit more plasticky in a way, but power folding mirrors, memory seats, payload capacity 1345. Seats perforated all down the center here. Got your power adjustments on the side. Do have a few controls here on the side, like the heated steering wheel is kind of off to the side. Put it on the steering wheel, Toyota. It's the trailer brake controls are in an area that kind of makes sense. But boom, full digital. So yeah, both of them have full digital. That's kind of the modern truck thing to do. The steering wheel is also simplistic in terms of the layout and all the controls that are on it. No controls in the back like the Chevy. And then look at this camera system. Isn't that fantastic? That's great. But yeah, as for the infotainment system, I'd say that probably is a little bit quicker than GM's in terms of the response time, it looks like. We've got our dual zone climate controls with this, heated ventilated seats. Down below we've got items for like the camera, for example, the tailgate, drop down and raise. Got a shifter, just like the Chevy, so you feel like you're doing something real. Powertrain 4-wheel drive system, no auto on this. You got drive modes and tow mode. Big center console, some USBs inside. You got a little window. Now this does not have a top glove box. It's a little bit of a downside. Just a regular rear view mirror here, as you can see. And then no sunroof with this one either. So that Silverado stickers for almost $74,000, whereas the Tundra is $66,500. So pretty big price difference. Let's see how they perform. Are these in fact the 2 most unreliable pickup trucks for sale today? Time will tell on that. Time will tell on that. But let's see how they perform, and let's see if they perform till the end, right? So I will say personally, I have not, like, believe it or not, I have not had any issues with these Tundras. I had one, I know I had one, maybe even 2 of these as like a demo for a week. 0 issues, even took it off-road. I've done tons of reviews with these at dealerships. 0 issues, 0 glitches. So I will give that to the Tundra, that from my personal experience, no issues. The Silverado, on the other hand, we'll talk about it. I've had some stuff. I have certainly had some stuff. Now, you know, obviously I can just kind of dive into, oh, modern cars are too complicated, this and that, and obviously there is a lot of truth to that. But, you know, I don't think all this tech is actually causing too many issues. Again, in my experience with some of these modern Toyotas, the tech actually works really well. It doesn't really glitch out. I think the problem is more so all of the emissions regulations on these pickup trucks. I don't know, I kind of think that they should just have a different emission standards for different vehicles. Like light duty vehicles are on one category, and then you have heavy duty vehicles. I don't think it should be that way. I think that you should have different like subcategories within light duty. Like the emissions standards on like a Corolla should not be the same as what's on a Tundra, you know? And that's honestly like 90% of the problem, is these automakers are kind of put in a corner where they've got to do all this stuff to try to meet those emission standards, and most of that stuff leads to less reliability, as we have seen with these modern pickup trucks. And it's crazy how much has changed. I mean, you guys can see the engine is off right now, and so like this has auto stop start. It's twin turbocharged. Now, oh yeah, it's got tons of power, tons and tons of power. 1 billion pound-feet of torque. And that's the nice thing about these modern pickup trucks, is they're fast. It's not just that they're powerful, right? Pickup trucks used to be just, they felt powerful, but now, not only are they powerful, they can scoot like a little sports car in a sense. But yeah, you've got auto stop start, you've got 2 turbochargers, you've got all of this crazy fancy tech to make it so this big pickup truck gets, again, with this, well, I guess this technically doesn't have auto stop start because it's the hybrid. I'm pretty sure the non-hybrid, this is the last review of the day. Forgive me for that. The non-hybrid, though, I'm like 90% sure there's auto stop start. This obviously is going to shut on and off because of the brights run. I hit those on by accident. Because of the hybrid system. But still, it's just complexity. I forgot that I had the hybrid Tundra. For some reason, I thought I picked out a non-hybrid. Oh man, bad day, long day. So, the point stands. Complexity. You got lots of complexity, whether it's hybrid or just auto stop start. And yeah, and then you got, I mean, we'll talk about the Silverado. You got cylinder deactivation thrown into the mix too. So, I don't know. And you know, these trucks drive, this drives great. This is super comfortable. We'll compare that to the Silverado. Yeah, I mean, the seats are nice. They're a bit firmer. But yeah, I mean, the suspension's comfortable. The steering is effortless. But I think that a lot of people stand with me on this point where I like that stuff, but I don't need it. And I especially don't need it if it's going to cause problems. Like, oh, hey, this has this new fancy hybrid that's going to get you, on average, 20 miles per gallon. Oh, that's cool in a pickup truck. But then if my engine blows up, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And the hybrid hasn't been the problem with the Tundras. All the recalled vehicles so far have been non-hybrids, but yeah. Twin turbocharge. That's the big thing with the Tundra. It's a complex system. Lots of power, small displacement. So let's go pop into the Silverado, see how that performs. And I mean, the Tundra, we made it back in one piece. I fully expected that. I haven't had any issues with any of these Tundras. I will say, Silverado sounds mighty. Gotta love that 6.2 V8. And you'd think that a V8 would be reliable, but all that emissions equipment, choking it out. Cylinder deactivation. I'm pretty sure this one has cylinder deactivation. It's got auto stop start, that's for sure. So, you just got a lot going on. I mean, it's crazy. You even have cylinder deactivation on 4 cylinders nowadays. Like, they're putting this stuff into everything. Got to get every last MPG. And, you know, there's supposed to be a comparison, and here's your comparison. The seats in this are firmer than the Tundra. The V8 sounds better. The power delivery is a little bit smoother, but this has less torque. There you go. This, both of them have easy-to-use tech. But yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I consider myself an environmentalist. Like, I think that we do have an impact on the environment, and there's things that we can do to be less impactful. But as someone who considers himself an environmentalist, I don't think that what we're doing now is working with cars, because cars have become disposable at this point. When you have these engines blowing up at sub 10,000 miles, you know, it seems like with the GM vehicles, if you make it past 10,000 miles, you're probably good. With the Tundras, you got to make it past like 30,000. It seems like those kind of start to blow up at like 20, 30,000 miles, but from what people have told me. But yeah, I mean, that's going to pollute way more than if you have a vehicle that gets worse fuel economy, that might have a engine that, you know, out of the tailpipe pollutes a little bit more, but lasts a lot longer. Like, I was thinking about my V8 Land Cruiser, right? That vehicle has no cylinder deactivation, has no auto stop start. It's a very simplistic V8, and that's a vehicle that if I maintain it properly, I will be able to go 500,000, maybe even 1,000,000 miles with that. Well, that's a lot. And the power on this, oof, that's good. That's a lot. So if I drive that vehicle up to 1,000,000 miles, instead of these modern vehicles that can't even make it to 100,000, right? So let's say I go through 10 new vehicles up to 100,000 miles each, because they all blow up at 100,000 miles, because that's what it seems like it's happening nowadays, versus one vehicle to 1,000,000 miles. Which is worse for the environment, right? Which is actually making like a worse impact? We all know it's the buying of the 10 vehicles. So I'm all about large displacement, naturally aspirated engines. Yeah, they pollute a little bit more. Yeah, they don't have as much power as the turbo stuff, but they are darn reliable. You can always count on them through thick or thin. No auto stop start. And you know, I'm a fan of hybrids. I think that you can have Toyota's proven you can have reliable hybrids. So I think that, like, if we actually all care about the environment and want things to be better, we would be pushing for naturally aspirated hybrids. That is the most reliable, least impactful on the environment. People will say the electric car people always say electric cars, but those batteries are so, like, a traditional hybrid has a 1 kilowatt-hour battery pack on average. 1 kilowatt-hour on average. Whereas you look at a electric car and they're 70 to 100 kilowatt-hours. Like, they're so much bigger. They're not even in the same world. They're so much bigger. So it's like you can build so many hybrids for the materials that you could only build one electric vehicle. And again, those electric vehicles, they're pooping out at like 100,000 miles. Some of them are getting to a little bit higher, but yeah, they make it to, they're just as disposable. So I think we should have NA hybrids. This comparison, I think, really proves that. So yeah, there's Metal Soapbox. Nothing's ever going to change. Nothing we do is going to do anything, it seems like, sadly. But they're both cool trucks. Hopefully GM figures out their issues. Hopefully Toyota figures out their issues and we get more reliable pickup trucks. But with our Lord and Savior, the Environmental Protection Agency, that no longer seems to protect the environment, I'm not too hopeful. I'm not too hopeful, so that's all.